The colorful fairy pitta, or pitta nympha, belongs to the order Passeriformes, genus Pittidae, known in Chinese as the eight-color bird. The people of Hushan village in central Taiwan call it Qiuha, meaning forager, because it scratches around the bamboo undergrowth. A secretive forest dweller, the fairy pitta is just 18 centimeters in length and has a wingspan of 12 centimeters. Its breast and abdomen are a pale straw color. A splash of red plumage extends from the lower belly to the tail. The species has a black beak and reddish-orange feet. The wing feathers are black at the tip and spotted white in the center. Little is known about the fairy pitta's ecology. A shy, solitary bird, it is most often found on the floor of broadleaf and bamboo forests. Adults stay close to their nests, feeding mainly on insects, snails, cicadas, and worms during the breeding season. Nestlings are fed mainly earthworms. A summer migrant to Taiwan, the fairy pitta arrives in April each year on its way from its wintering site in Borneo to breed in Japan, Korea, southeastern China, and Taiwan. Listed as vulnerable by BirdLife International and protected as an endangered species under Taiwan's wildlife conservation law, the fairy pitta's exact global population is unknown. The species has been recorded in Taiwan's western hills, particularly between the 61st and 73rd forest compartments of the Alishan Forestry Department in the hills around Doliu in Yunlin County. We noticed that the fairy pitta has certain habitat requirements. Firstly, it must be dark, and secondly, it must be damp. Shade is the main requirement. They usually find a place where the leaf cover is dense enough to block out sunlight and make the ground level darker. In this dim environment, plant growth is pretty limited. There isn't much grass. This makes it easy for pittas to hop around the forest floor in search of food. These habitats are comparatively moist. A damper environment means that primary food sources like earthworms tend to be closer to the surface. This makes it easier for the birds to catch them. Yunlin County has a population of 740,000 people, and all potable water resources come from groundwater. Water for agricultural and aquaculture activities along the coast also comes from underground. This is causing subsidence to gradually extend inward from the coast. The excessive long-term pumping of water from underground aquifers has caused subsidence of more than 2 meters in some parts of Yunlin. For instance, land in Tuku and Yuanzhang Township is already declining at a rate of 9.5 centimeters a year. Furthermore, some groundwater aquifers have been found to contain arsenic due to the influx of seawater. Rainfall is heavily concentrated, giving rise to periods of extreme drought, and there is nowhere to catch runoff at present, so monsoon rain is wasted and runs off into the sea. The proposed site of Hushan Reservoir is Meilin Creek, an offshoot of Beigong Stream in the hills around Doliu. Taiwan's EPA approved an environmental impact assessment in 2000, and the Executive Yuan granted permission in 2001 for work to begin. After completion, the reservoir will operate alongside Jiji Weir to provide drinking water to Yunlin and Nantou County residents. and supply water to the Yunlin Offshore Industrial Park. The hills around Douliu in Yunlin County are one of the fairy pitta's main habitats in Taiwan. Reservoir construction will take place on the southwestern flank of the hills and will affect part of the pitta's habitat. To conserve dwindling fairy pitta populations, the Central Region Water Resources Office must devise a set of protective measures to reduce the reservoir's impact on the species. Also, because local and international knowledge about the fairy pitta is limited, the Water Resources Office commissioned a research team from National Zhongxing University to survey the bird's ecology and propose a model of habitat utilization by the species. This basic information will be used to design and implement an action plan to protect the fairy pitta. After studying the fairy pitta's habitat, we found there are several factors to consider. For instance, plant cover. There can't be too many leafy plants because worms can only come up if humus goes down. Then the soil can't be too dense, otherwise the tiny pittas won't be able to catch the worms for food. In designing a model for habitat construction, we also need to consider the nest building environment, which has to be secluded. Basically, we'll be looking at bamboo forests with some broadleaf trees interspersed, so the pittas can avoid predation by wild animals while ensuring a good supply of worms to feed their young. After dividing the 61st to 73rd forest compartments of the Alishan Forestry Department in the hills around Douliu into 84 grid sections, the research team selected 227 study sites to conduct the population survey. Research was conducted using the tape playback or call-response method because the fairy pitta is a highly territorial species. After reaching their breeding ground, the birds use their resonant call to announce their territory and attract a mate. They can usually be heard from late April through until the end of May. At each survey site, the researchers broadcast tape-recorded calls for 5 minutes and then calculated how many fairy pittas were at the site from the number of response calls. In the survey area, a total of 87 response calls were recorded. Of these, 21 were heard in the proposed reservoir area. To minimize the effect of construction work on these birds, researchers must put forward a set of measures to protect them. Researchers also studied 253 sample sites to understand how fairy pittas select habitat. Each site was classed according to its topography into ridge area, valley, hillside, cliff area, and flatland. The sites were then sorted based on plant cover into agricultural land, grassland, bamboo forest, fruit orchard, planted forest, and broadleaf forest. Cross-correlation revealed that the species prefers bamboo forest and stream ecologies. Researchers concluded that the presence of water played an important role in habitat selection. In addition, researchers also found that pittas require some slopeland and herbaceous plant cover within their habitat in addition to a water system. Through Geographical Information System (GIS) modeling analysis, the researchers hope to transfer those environmental factors preferred by the species to habitats outside the proposed reservoir area, thus improving their overall quality and attracting pittas to nest and forage there. However, whether these ideas will work or not remains to be seen through ongoing monitoring once the measures are implemented. During the survey, researchers found several fairy pitta nests in Hushan village. Some of the nests were being hatched by parent birds, but some had been destroyed by natural predators. To learn more about the fairy pitta's food sources, the researchers investigated the invertebrate composition of the habitat area using 3 methods: vacuum sampling, pitfall traps, and chemical repellents, which are often used to collect worms. The samples were then taken back to the lab to be washed, weighed, and classified. Based on the research, the Central Region Water Resources Office has formulated a series of measures to protect fairy pittas at Hushan Reservoir, to be implemented in stages. These include environmental protection procedures and monitoring of the construction environment to reduce its impact on the species. To further understand this reclusive bird, the Water Resources Office will contract researchers to continue field research. Information will be used by the relevant authorities as reference for future strategies for fairy pitta conservation. In addition, researchers will conduct initial experiments on habitat construction for subsequent habitat restoration and species recovery work. Fairy pitta protection measures at Hushan Reservoir were first applied in the second half of 2004 and are expected to remain in place until 2011. Funds of over 100 million NT dollars will be provided by the Hushan Reservoir. To effectively implement the fairy pitta conservation project, experts from the Research Center for Biodiversity at Academia Sinica, the Council of Agriculture's Endemic Species Research Institute, Forestry Bureau, Yunlin County Government, and the Taiwan Wild Bird Federation will establish an executive committee responsible for monitoring and supervising the project. The committee will also answer queries and ensure full execution of the project. In commissioning National Zhongxing University's fairy pitta research, the Central Region Water Resources Office has also helped promote conservation awareness among the residents of Hushan village. By organizing local eco-tours and increasing recognition of fairy pittas through on-site guiding and related activities, it has strengthened construction engineers' understanding of this precious bird and has spread local awareness of the need to preserve it. Sustainability has become the keyword for development in the 21st century. The people of Yunlin County want to encourage regional development and improve their standard of living, but they must balance economic progress with environmental protection to create a win-win situation. When it comes online, Hushan Reservoir will provide a stable supply of water, replacing the need to pump groundwater. This will gradually resolve Yunlin's problems of subsidence, seawater encroachment, salification of agricultural land, and other environmental crises, while also promoting development of the local economy. Furthermore, once all the measures to protect the fairy pitta at Hushan Reservoir come into effect, Taiwan's residents will better understand this precious bird. By protecting fairy pitta habitat, the project aims to serve as a model for future conservation work. In the future, government authorities hope the new aquatic habitat at Hushan Reservoir will gradually be assimilated into the overall ecosystem, to form a sustainable environment for the protection of species biodiversity.